Hello, my name is Sandro Sebastian. I'm the head of the publishing company Boys Bleed. We handle fiction titles that have a fantasy adventure flavor to them with young adult themes, but with a more mature and sophisticated grammar and sentence structure. I've done my best to steer us away from comic book speech bubble dialogue. And though my books do have illustrations in them, they are classically trained and inspired. I try to give them a more intellectual weight to them than the snazzy, rubbery, spandex-wearing muscular men that dominate the pop culture scene currently. People don't give young men enough credit. They're not going to be teenage boys forever. Let's get them ready and take a look at what's going on in my world this week. So I delivered my painting to a gallery in San Diego and drove back to Los Angeles with Dashiell Hammett's The Thin Man accompanying me on audiobook. Hammett's masterpiece inspired me to sample another one of his books, Red Harvest, about a detective investigating the murder of a journalist. His investigation leads to a fixed boxing match, and before the fight, the detective approaches the fighter who's expected to fold and taunts him. It's an often overlooked skill, an author's ability to acknowledge what is at stake emotionally beyond what we're seeing on the surface. Red Harvest by Dashiell Hammett. Somebody was coming up. I stood at the top waiting for a look at him. There was just light enough to see by. He was a slim, muscular lad in army shirt, blue suit, gray cap. Black eyebrows made a straight line above his eyes. I said, "Hello." He nodded without stopping or saying anything. "Win tonight?" I asked. "Hope so," he said shortly, passing me. I let him take 4 steps towards his room before I told him, "So do I. I'd hate to have to ship you back to Philly, Al." He took another step, turned around very slowly, rested a shoulder against the wall, let his eyes get sleepy, and grunted, "Huh?" "If you were smacked down in the 6th or any other round by a palooka like Kid Cooper, it'd make me peevish." I said, "Don't do it, Al. You don't want to go back to Philly." The youngster put his chin down on his neck and came back to me. When he was within arm's reach, he stopped, letting his left side turn a bit to the front. His hands were hanging loose. Mine were in my overcoat pockets. He said, "Huh?" again. I said, "Try to remember that if Ike Bush doesn't turn in a win tonight, Al Kennedy will be riding east in the morning." He lifted his left shoulder an inch. I moved the gun around in my pocket enough. He grumbled, "Where do you get that stuff about me not winning?" "Just something I heard. I didn't think there was anything in it except maybe a duck it back to Philly." "I ought to bust your jaw, you fat crook." "Now's the time to do it," I advised him. "If you win tonight, you're not likely to see me again. If you lose, you'll see me, but your hands won't be loose." I found McSwain in Murray's, a Broadway pool room. "Did you get to him?" he asked. "Yeah, it's all fixed. If he doesn't blow town or say something to his backers or just pay no attention to me, or..." McSwain developed a lot of nervousness. "You better damn sight be careful," he warned me. "They might try to put you out the way. I got to see a fellow down the street, and he deserted me." Poisonville's prize fighting was done in a big wooden ex-casino in what had once been an amusement park on the edge of town. When I got there at 8:30, most of the population seemed to be on hand, packed in tight in close rows of folding chairs on the main floor, packed tighter on benches in 2 dinky balconies. Smoke, stink, heat, noise. Kid Cooper climbed into the ring while I was squeezing through to my seat. He was a ruddy, straw-haired, solid-built boy with a dented face and too much meat around the top of his lavender trunks. Ike Bush, alias Al Kennedy, came through the ropes in the opposite corner. His body looked better, slim, nicely ridged, shaky, but his face was pale, worried. They were introduced, went to the center of the ring for the usual instructions, returned to their corners, shed bathrobes, stretched on the ropes. The gong rang, and the scrap was on. Cooper was a clumsy bum. He had a pair of wide swings that might have hurt when they landed, but anybody with 2 feet could have kept away from them. Bush had class, nimble legs, a smooth, fast left hand, and a right that got away quick. It would have been murder to put Cooper in the ring with the slim boy if he had been trying, but he wasn't. That is, he wasn't trying to win. He was trying not to, and had his hands full doing it. Cooper waddled flat-footed around the ring, throwing his wide swings at everything from the lights to the corner posts. His system was simply to turn them loose and let them take their chances. Bush moved in and out, putting a glove on the ruddy boy whenever he wanted to, but not putting anything in the glove. The customers were booing before the first round was over. The second round was just as sour. It didn't feel so good. Bush didn't seem to have been much influenced by our little conversation. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see Dinah Brand trying to catch my attention. She looked hot. I took care not to have my attention caught. The roommate act in the ring was continued in the third round to the tune of yelled, "Throw 'em outs, why don't you kiss 'ems, and make 'em fights," from the seats. The Pug's waltz brought them around to the corner nearest me, just as the booing broke off for a moment. I made a megaphone of my hands and howled, "Back to Philly, Al." Bush's back was to me. He wrestled Cooper around, shoving him into the ropes, so he, Bush, faced my way. From somewhere far back in another part of the house, another yelling voice came, "Back to Philly, Al." McSwain, I supposed. A drunk off to one side lifted his puffy face and bawled the same thing, laughing as if it were a swell joke. Others took up the cry for no reason at all, except that it seemed to disturb Bush. His eyes jerked from side to side under the black bar of his eyebrows. One of Cooper's wild mitts clouded the slim boy on the side of the jaw. Ike Bush piled down at the referee's feet. The referee counted 5 in 2 seconds, but the gong cut him off. I looked over at Dinah Brand and laughed. There wasn't anything else to do. She looked at me and didn't laugh. Her face was sick as Dan Rolfe's, but angrier. Bush's handlers dragged him into his corner and rubbed him up, not working very hard at it. He opened his eyes and watched his feet. The gong was tapped. Kid Cooper paddled out, hitching up his trunks. Bush waited until the bum was in the center of the ring and then came to him, fast. Bush's left glove went down, out, practically out of sight in Cooper's belly. Cooper said, "Ugh," and backed away, folding up. Bush straightened him with a right hand poke in the mouth and sank the left again. Cooper said, "Ugh," again, and had trouble with his knees. Bush cuffed him once more on each side of the head, cocked his right, carefully pushed Cooper's face into position with a long left, and threw his right hand straight from under his jaw to Cooper's. Everybody in the house felt the punch. Cooper hit the floor, bounced, and settled there. It took the referee half a minute to count 10 seconds. It would have been just the same if he had taken half an hour. Kid Cooper was out. When the referee had finally stalled through the count, he raised Bush's hand. Neither of them looked happy. A high twinkle of light caught my eye. A short silvery streak slanted down from one of the small balconies. A woman screamed. The silvery streak ended its flashing slant in the ring with a sound that was partly a thud, partly a snap. Ike Bush took his arm out of the referee's hand and pitched down on top of Kid Cooper. A black knife handle stuck out of the nape of Bush's neck. Ooh. Well, if you let the mob buy a piece of you, I guess you better not double-cross them, huh? All of the Boys Bleed Publishing titles are available on Amazon searchable under the name Sandro Sebastian or by title. And for a full list of them, you can visit my personal website, www.theardmonk.com.